The Grand Assembly Hall floated in the darkness of space, a massive station orbiting a dying star. Inside, thousands of alien creatures filled the observation decks. Their voices created a strange symphony of clicks, whistles, and growls as translation devices worked to make sense of the chaos. They were all waiting for the same thing, the trial of humanity. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood alone on a circular platform in the center of the chamber. The platform hung suspended in the air, surrounded by a 100-meter drop into darkness below. He wore a simple gray suit that looked plain compared to the elaborate robes and glowing armor of the aliens around him. Above him, 7 massive thrones rose like mountains, and on each throne sat a High Arbiter of the Galactic Council. The lead arbiter was called High Chancellor Voth. Its body looked like it was made of living crystal, and when it spoke, the sound filled every corner of the enormous room. Humanity stands accused of the most serious crime in galactic law. You have chosen isolation. You have refused to participate in the collective peace. For 200 cycles, Earth ignored every summons we sent, every diplomatic message, every warning. You were given a seat at this council.
You threw it away like garbage.
Marcus stood perfectly still. His hands were clasped behind his back. His face showed nothing. He just listened. Do you understand how serious this is? Voth continued. The crystal being's voice grew harder, sharper. Species have been erased for less than what you have done. Your star system should have been surrounded. Your advancement should have been stopped. Your world should have been marked as a failure. The thousands of aliens in the observation decks roared their agreement. Some stamped their feet. Others slammed appendages against railings. The noise was deafening, and yet, Voth said, and suddenly the chamber went silent. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected something impossible. 1,000 human warships crossing into Council space, not scattered merchant vessels, not desperate refugees running from some disaster. A fleet, moving in perfect formation, heading directly here. The silence in the chamber became absolute. Every alien held its breath. Every eye, whether it had 2 or 8, focused on the human standing alone on the platform. Marcus finally spoke. His voice was calm and quiet, but somehow every translator in the station caught every word. We did not skip your meetings, Chancellor. We were simply busy. Behind him, a massive holographic display flickered to life. It showed images from real-time sensors. The human fleet hung in space just outside Council territory. Each ship was larger than anything the galaxy had seen in 500 years. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in strange markings. Energy readings from the ships made several military advisors in the observation decks visibly shake with fear. The question before this council, Marcus said, looking directly at Voth, is not why we ignored you. The question is whether you can afford for us to keep ignoring you. Red emergency lights began flashing throughout the chamber. Military channels lit up with urgent communications. The High Chancellor's crystalline body flickered with what might have been anger or fear. Marcus continued speaking as if nothing had changed. 200 years ago, Earth received your message. First contact. You remember it, I am sure. It was very generous. You invited us to join the Galactic Council. You offered to guide us, to teach us, to help us advance. He paused, and a thin smile crossed his face. But the message had conditions. Submit to Council jurisdiction. Limit our military development to approved levels. Share all our technology with Council archives. Accept guidance from more advanced species. He emphasized those last 2 words with just a touch of sarcasm. Our government read your message very carefully, Chancellor. We read between the lines. This was not an invitation. It was subjugation dressed up in pretty diplomatic language. An alien in the observation deck, a massive creature covered in scales, roared in anger. How dare you accuse the Council of General Thax, Marcus said, not even looking at the alien. Commander of the Corvin Imperial Fleet, 250 warships under your command. You have enforced Council peace for 6 centuries, and by peace, I mean you have crushed anyone who challenged the established order. Marcus finally turned to look at Thax. Did I get any of that wrong? Thax said nothing. His scaled face twisted with rage, but he remained silent. Marcus turned back to the High Arbiters. So Earth made a choice. Instead of responding to your message, we went dark. We dismantled every broadcast that could give away details about our exact location. We moved all our deep space operations to stealth protocols. We focused on a single question. He paused for effect. If we are not joining your system, can we survive outside it? High Chancellor Voth leaned forward on its throne. And you spent 200 cycles preparing for war. No, Marcus said firmly. We spent 200 cycles preparing to be left alone. There is a difference. He activated another section of the holographic display. Images filled the air showing Council military operations, secret trade agreements, and classified documents. For 200 years, we have been watching you. We infiltrated your networks. We hacked your databases. We monitored every council session even though we were not here in person. We learned about your wars that never made the official records. We discovered how you manipulate economies to keep certain species dependent on others. We found out which member worlds are really making the decisions and which are just window dressing. The chamber erupted again. Aliens shouted denials. Others demanded to know how humans could have possibly breached council security. Several species in the observation decks turned to look at each other with suspicion, wondering who had sold out secrets. Marcus waited for the noise to die down. We did not ignore you out of ignorance, Chancellor. We studied you. We learned your weaknesses. We prepared for this exact moment. High Chancellor Voth's crystalline form began to glow with a harsh light. You will order your fleet to stand down immediately. They will submit to inspection. They will leave council space, or we will consider this an act of war. Marcus tilted his head slightly, as if considering the demand. Then he tapped a small device on his wrist. Commander Reeves, the Chancellor would like to inspect our fleet. Please send them the coordinates where they can meet us. A woman's voice came through the communication system, clear and professional. Coordinates transmitted, Ambassador. Inspection protocols granted. We will expect the Council fleet in 30 hours at the designated location. The holographic display shifted again. It now showed a much wider view of space. The 1,000 warships that everyone had been focused on were still there, hanging in formation. But behind them, still traveling faster than light, still incoming, were more ships. Many more ships. The numbers on the display updated as sensors gathered more data. 5,000 ships. 10,000. 15,000. The count kept rising. Marcus spoke into the shocked silence. The 1,000 ships you detected were not our fleet, Chancellor. They were the escort. The Earth Defense Network is behind them. All 15,000 vessels should arrive within the next standard day. He clasped his hands behind his back again and stood calmly, as if he had just commented on the weather. Now then, shall we discuss new terms for contact? I believe we have several things to negotiate. High Chancellor Voth stared at the human for a long moment. Around the chamber, aliens began speaking urgently into communication devices. Military leaders huddled in groups. Political factions that had been stable for centuries suddenly looked fragile. Finally, Voth spoke. This council will recess for 6 standard hours. When we reconvene, Ambassador Webb, you will explain exactly what humanity wants. And you will explain why we should not call every allied fleet in the galaxy to deal with your threat. Marcus nodded politely. 6 hours is acceptable. I look forward to our discussion, Chancellor. As the High Arbiters left their thrones and the observation decks began to empty, Marcus remained standing on his platform, watching the chaos unfold around him. 200 years of preparation had led to this moment. Earth had been silent for so long. Now, finally, the galaxy would have to listen. And this was only the beginning. Director Amara Cole walked into the secure briefing room deep beneath the UN headquarters in Geneva. The year was 2187, 50 years after Earth had received the first message from the Galactic Council. The room was filled with representatives from every major government on the planet. They all looked worried. They all wanted answers. Amara placed her tablet on the podium and looked out at the assembled leaders. Thank you all for coming. What I am about to share with you is classified at the highest level. The Exodus program has been running for 5 decades now, and I think it is time you all understood what we have been building. A holographic star map appeared above the table, showing Earth and the surrounding space. When we received the Council's message, we had a choice to make. Join their system and accept whatever that meant, or refuse and face the consequences. Our scientists analyzed every piece of information in that message. Our linguists studied every word choice. Our strategists examined every implication. She pressed a button and the star map changed. Red zones appeared, marking Council territory. What we discovered was disturbing. The Galactic Council is not a democracy. It is not even a fair alliance. It is a feudal system disguised with diplomatic language. One of the representatives, an older man from the European Federation, raised his hand. How can you be certain? Because they told us, Amara replied. Not directly, but the information was there. Species are ranked by contribution tiers. New species always enter at the bottom. They provide resources and labor while the established powers maintain control. A species can be part of the Council for 1,000 years and still have no real voting power on important decisions. She pulled up more data. Our scientists also noticed something else. Technology in Council space is stagnant. They have been using the same faster-than-light drives for 2,000 years. The same weapons, the same energy systems. Innovation is controlled, limited, and only distributed in ways that maintain the power structure. The holographic display shifted again, showing hidden bases and shipyards scattered across multiple star systems. So we made a different choice. We decided to prepare. For 50 years, we have been building in secret. Another representative, a woman from the African Union, leaned forward. Building what exactly? Everything, Amara said simply. While the Council believed we had maybe a few dozen ships for system defense, we launched what we call the Great Expansion. We used stealth technology that we reverse-engineered from Council spy drones. Yes, they sent drones to watch us. We caught them and took them apart. She smiled slightly. We established hidden colonies in 40 star systems outside Council space. These are not refugees. They are shipyards, research stations, and military academies. Each colony specializes in different aspects of warfare and technology. They operate under complete communications blackout, except for quantum-encrypted channels that the Council cannot detect or intercept. The display showed images of massive construction yards in deep space, ships being built in silence, and research facilities on distant worlds. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Victor Hale, a mathematician working at our Mars research facility, discovered something remarkable. Amara pulled up complex equations that filled the air. Most of the representatives looked confused. She simplified the display. The Council's faster-than-light technology that they shared with all member species has deliberate errors built into the equations. These errors cap the speed at specific thresholds. They shared this technology with everyone, which means every species in the galaxy is using intentionally limited FTL drives. A representative from the Asian Coalition gasped. They sabotaged their own technology? Not sabotaged, Amara corrected. Controlled. If you control how fast everyone can travel, you control trade routes, military response times, and economic development. It is brilliant, in a cruel way. She closed the equations and brought up new designs. Our physicists started from scratch. They used human mathematical frameworks that the galaxy has never seen. Within 30 years, we developed FTL drives that are 40% faster than anything in Council space. But you did not stop there, the European representative said, reading between the lines. No, we did not, Amara confirmed. Our engineers looked at every piece of Council technology we could learn about, every weapon, every shield, every sensor system, and we asked a simple question. Why is it designed this way? Usually the answer was the same. It was designed to maintain control, not to optimize performance. The holographic display now showed human warships, sleek and deadly. When you remove the artificial limitations, when you design technology to actually work as well as it can instead of just well enough to maintain a power structure, you get very different results. She let that sink in for a moment. Our ships are faster. Our weapons are more efficient. Our shields use entirely different principles. We did not copy the Council and try to make our version slightly better. We ignored them completely and built from our own knowledge base. A representative from South America stood up. Director Cole, this all sounds impressive, but surely the Council has millions of ships, billions of soldiers. How can we possibly stand against that kind of numerical superiority? Amara nodded. That is the right question. The answer is that we cannot win a war of conquest against the entire galaxy. That was never the goal. Our goal was to make sure that attacking Earth would be too costly for anyone to consider. She pulled up tactical simulations. In our war game scenarios, a single human battle group of 20 ships can neutralize a council fleet of 200. Our fleet of 1,000 can pacify an entire sector. And if we ever had to deploy all 15,000 ships we have built, we could hold off a force 10 times that size. But you said we cannot win a war of conquest. Another representative pointed out. We cannot hold territory across the galaxy, Amara explained. We do not have the population or the logistics for that, but we can make attacking Earth suicidal. We can make any invasion force regret the attempt, and most importantly, we can demonstrate that the Council's technological superiority is a myth. She turned off the holographic displays and looked directly at the assembled leaders. In 50 years, we have done what the Council said was impossible. We have innovated beyond their limitations. We have built a fleet that makes their most powerful ships look outdated. We have established colonies they do not even know exist. And we have done it all while they assumed we were primitive and isolated. When do we reveal all this? The African Union representative asked. Soon, Amara said. We are entering the final phase of preparation. Our population on Earth is now 14 billion. Another 8 billion humans live in the outer colonies. The hidden shipyards have completed their work. We have the fleet. We have the technology. We have the training. She placed her hands on the podium. The Council thinks we are isolated. They think we are afraid. When we finally make contact, they need to understand that Earth chose silence. And we can choose to make noise. The briefing continued for hours. Details were shared. Questions were answered. Plans were refined. By the end, every representative understood what humanity had built in secret. They also understood the risk. If the Council discovered the truth before Earth was ready, there would be war. But as Amara told them before they left, we did not spend 50 years building this just to hide forever. Eventually, we will have to step into the light. When we do, the galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Now, in the present day, standing in the Council chamber, Ambassador Marcus Webb was executing that plan. The silence was over. The galaxy was seeing what Earth had become, and the old powers were realizing that their comfortable control over the universe was about to end. Marcus had studied Director Cole's briefings. He had trained for this moment. He knew every detail of what humanity had built, every capability of the fleet hanging in space outside. He also knew something else that the Council did not yet understand. Earth had not just built weapons. Humanity had built something far more dangerous to the Council's power structure. They had built proof that the system was not inevitable, that a species could refuse the hierarchy and not only survive, but thrive, that innovation and freedom produced better results than control and stagnation. As Marcus waited for the Council to reconvene, he thought about what Director Cole had said all those years ago. The galaxy needed to understand that Earth chose silence. Now they would learn what happened when Earth chose to speak. The neutral zone was an empty sector of space, far from any inhabited system. It had been chosen specifically for this demonstration because there was nothing here that could be accidentally destroyed. The entire galaxy was watching through live feeds transmitted from observer ships positioned at safe distances. General Thack stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his flagship and the pride of the Corvan Imperial Fleet. The ship was enormous, the size of a small city. Its armor could withstand direct hits from 100 vessels. Its weapons could crack a planet's crust. For 300 years, the Eternal Dominion had never lost a battle. This human arrogance will end here, Thack said to his crew. They think their one small ship can challenge Corvan superiority. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who refuse to know their place. Across the empty space, Commander Reeves sat in the captain's chair of the Retribution. Her ship was 1/3 the size of the Corvan flagship. Her crew numbered only 300 compared to the thousands aboard the Eternal Dominion. But she looked calm, almost relaxed. All systems green, her tactical officer reported. Weapons ready. Shields at full power. Good, Reeves said. Remember, this is a demonstration, not a slaughter. We disable their ship, we do not destroy it. The goal is to teach, not to kill. Yes, Commander, the tactical officer acknowledged. Back in the Grand Assembly Hall, thousands of aliens watched the massive view screens showing both ships. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the observation area, watching calmly. Beside him, several minor species representatives had gathered, hoping desperately that humanity could back up its claims. High Chancellor Voth's crystalline form reflected the light from the view screens. "Your ship is badly outnumbered in size and firepower, Ambassador. Are you certain you want to proceed with this demonstration?" Marcus did not take his eyes off the screen. "Absolutely certain, Chancellor." In the neutral zone, the combat parameters were confirmed. Both ships were at maximum range from each other. The challenge would begin with the Corvin firing first, as tradition demanded. Then the human ship could respond. General Thax smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Maximum range plasma barrage. Show them what real power looks like." The Eternal Dominion's primary weapons came to life. Massive cannons along its hull began to glow with building energy. Then they fired. Bolts of superheated plasma streaked across space, each one carrying enough destructive force to vaporize a small asteroid. In the council chamber, aliens cheered. The Corvin weapons were legendary. No shield could stand against a sustained barrage like this. But Commander Reeves did not order evasive maneuvers. She did not even look concerned. "Hold position," she said calmly. "Let them shoot." The plasma bolt struck the Retribution dead center. The view screens lit up with the impact. The Corvin crew cheered, certain they had just crippled the human ship. Then the light cleared. The Retribution hung in space, completely undamaged. Its shields had not even flickered. The cheering stopped. The council chamber went silent. General Thax stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. "Impossible." That should have collapsed their shields. "Fire again!" All weapons. The Eternal Dominion unleashed everything. Plasma cannons, mass drivers, particle beams, even experimental energy weapons that the Corvin had kept secret for decades. The space between the two ships became a storm of destruction. The Retribution flew straight through it all, drifting slowly closer with each passing second. Not a single weapon touched its hull. The shields absorbed everything as if the Corvin weapons were nothing more than flashlights. Commander Reeves opened a communication channel. Her face appeared on view screens across the galaxy. "Your weapons are 3,000 years old, General. We have had 2 centuries to study them. We know exactly how they work. We designed our shields specifically to counter them. Try something new," Thax roared in fury. "Close to combat range. Use the heavy kinetic weapons. Nothing can stand against solid mass at high velocity." The Eternal Dominion accelerated forward, bringing its most powerful weapons to bear. These were not energy weapons. These were physical projectiles, each one weighing several tons and traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. When they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The projectiles launched. The human ship did not dodge. The impacts should have torn the Retribution apart. Instead, something strange happened. The projectiles struck the human shields and simply stopped. They hung in space for a moment, their kinetic energy completely absorbed, and then drifted away harmlessly. In the council chamber, military advisors began talking urgently. Scientists pulled up data, trying to understand what they were seeing. This was not supposed to be possible. No shield technology in the galaxy could neutralize kinetic energy like that. Ambassador Marcus spoke, though he seemed to be talking more to himself than to the crowd around him. When you build technology to maintain control rather than to be effective, you stop innovating. You stop asking if there are better ways to do things. We asked those questions. We found better answers. In space, the Retribution had closed to optimal firing range. Commander Reeves looked at her tactical officer. "One shot. Surgical strike. Target their primary power distribution node." "Targeting locked," the officer confirmed. "Fire." The human ship's main weapon came to life. It was not a plasma cannon or a mass driver. It was something the galaxy had never seen before. A lance of pure, coherent energy, focused to a degree that should have been impossible, shot across space. The beam did not just hit the Corvin shields. It passed through them as if they did not exist. It struck the Eternal Dominion's hull, carved through 30 meters of armor like it was paper, and precisely destroyed the ship's power distribution system. Every light on the Corvin flagship went dark. Every weapon went offline. Every system died. The Eternal Dominion drifted in space, completely disabled but intact. The crew was alive. The ship could be repaired. but it was as helpless as a child's toy. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some aliens shouted in fear. Others began arguing with their neighbors. Military leaders spoke urgently into communication devices. Political alliances that had been stable for centuries suddenly looked fragile. General Thax stared at his dark console in shock. Around him, his crew worked by emergency lighting, trying to understand what had happened. Their pride, their undefeated flagship, had been neutralized in seconds by a ship one-third its size. Commander Reeves opened the communication channel again. "Your ship is disabled, not destroyed, General. Your crew is safe. Emergency power should restore in a few minutes." This was a demonstration, not an execution. She paused, letting that sink in. The Eternal Dominion is 300 years old. It has won every battle it ever fought, but it was designed according to Council principles, Council limitations, Council assumptions about what weapons and shields should do. We designed the Retribution with no assumptions. We asked what was actually possible, not what the Council said was possible. This is the result. Ambassador Marcus stepped forward in the Council chamber, drawing all attention to him. You asked what Earth was doing for 200 years. Now you know. We were not hiding because we were afraid. We were preparing. We were innovating. We were building ships that make your most powerful vessels look like they belong in a museum. He activated a holographic display showing tactical projections. In our simulations, a single human battle group of 20 ships can neutralize a Council fleet of 200. Our fleet of 1,000 can control an entire sector. The 15,000 ships coming behind them could challenge this entire region of the galaxy. High Chancellor Voth's crystalline form had darkened with what might have been fear or anger. Then why are you here, Ambassador? If you have such power, why not simply take what you want? Why not conquer us? Marcus turned to face the High Chancellor directly. Because that was never the question we asked ourselves, Chancellor. We did not ask how to conquer the galaxy. We asked how to survive, how to live free, how to protect ourselves without becoming the thing we feared. He gestured to the view screen, still showing the disabled Corvin flagship. We did not destroy that ship. We could have. One shot could have killed everyone aboard. But that is not who we are. We came here not to overthrow the Council, but to renegotiate the terms of contact. The chamber fell silent. Every alien waited to hear what came next. Earth will not join the Council hierarchy, Marcus said firmly. We will not submit to Council jurisdiction. We will not accept being at the bottom of a system designed to keep us there. But we are willing to trade. We are willing to share some technology. We are willing to help maintain peace in the galaxy. He paused for emphasis. As equals, not as subjects. High Chancellor Voth processed this for a long moment. And if the Council refuses your terms? Marcus's expression did not change. Then we go back to silence. We return to our systems. We close our borders. And the galaxy continues as it has, with one difference. You will know that there is a power out here that you cannot control, that you cannot defeat, that you cannot force into submission. You will know that your technological superiority is a myth, and you will wonder what happens when other species learn that truth. The implications hit like a shockwave. If other species learned that the Council's control was built on artificial limitations rather than genuine superiority, the entire power structure would collapse. Voth stood from its throne. The Council will adjourn to discuss your terms. This session is recessed. As the High Arbiters filed out and the observation decks began to empty, Marcus remained where he was, watching the chaos unfold around him. The demonstration had worked. Now came the hard part, negotiating a new order with powers that had never negotiated as equals before. Behind the closed doors of a secure chamber deep within the Council station, 3 species met in secret. These were the powers that truly controlled the galaxy. General Thax of the Corvin, his scaled face still twisted with humiliation from the demonstration. Trade matriarch Kira of the Talvek, her 4 eyes constantly calculating economic implications. And High Chancellor Voth of the crystalline Vexar, ancient and cunning. We must attack immediately, Thax said, slamming his fist on the table. We have 2 million warships across Council space. They have 16,000. Numbers still matter. We can overwhelm them. Kira's voice was cold and analytical. Can you guarantee victory, General? Because I watched your flagship, your Pride, get disabled in seconds by a ship one-third its size. If we attack and fail, we lose everything. Our credibility, our control, our wealth. Voth's crystalline body pulsed with light as it thought. There is a deeper problem we must address. The humans are not just a military threat. They are a threat to the entire foundation of our order. Explain, Kira demanded. For 2,000 years, we have maintained control through a simple principle, Voth said. We convince every species that our technological superiority is natural, inevitable, that the hierarchy exists because we are inherently more advanced. The humans have just proven that this is a lie, Thax growled. One demonstration proves nothing. It proves everything, Voth countered. They showed that a species can refuse our system and not only survive but surpass us. They showed that innovation without our control produces superior results. And most dangerous of all, they did it while the entire galaxy was watching. Kira understood immediately. The client species will start asking questions. Worse, Voth said. They will start demanding answers. What if the minor species learn that we have been artificially limiting technology? What if they discover that the contribution tiers are designed to keep them dependent rather than help them develop? What if they realize that every trade agreement, every technology license, every restriction has been about maintaining our dominance? The three powerful beings sat in silence, each contemplating the same nightmare scenario. The pyramid of galactic power was not built on strength. It was built on the belief in strength, and humanity had just shaken that belief to its foundation. Meanwhile, in a different part of the station, Ambassador Marcus Webb met with a very different group. The chamber was crowded with representatives from 43 species. These were the civilizations that had entered the council at the bottom and stayed there. Species that provided resources, labor, and tribute while barely surviving. A reptilian diplomat named Kess spoke first. Her voice trembled with hope and fear. Ambassador Webb, my species has been a council member for 400 cycles. We followed every rule. We paid every tribute. We accepted every limitation they placed on us. And we still cannot vote on major decisions. They tell us we are not developed enough. But they make sure we never develop. An insectoid creature clicked forward. My people mine rare elements that the Talvek use to build their ships. We work for a fraction of what the elements are worth. When we tried to sell directly to other species, the Council sanctioned us for violating trade protocols. They said it was for our own protection. One by one, the representatives shared their stories. Species stripped of resources through unfair trade agreements. Civilizations kept technologically stagnant through license restrictions. Worlds forced to accept Council military bases they did not want. The pattern was clear. The Council was not a democracy. It was an empire that used bureaucracy instead of armies to maintain control. Marcus listened to every story. He took notes. He asked questions. And as he listened, he realized that the Council's exploitation ran even deeper than humanity had suspected. Why are you telling me this? He finally asked. Why risk everything to meet with me? Kess answered for all of them. Because you are proof that there is another way. You refused their system. You survived outside it. You built technology that surpasses theirs. You are showing the entire galaxy that the Council's dominance is not inevitable. You are showing us that we do not have to accept subjugation forever. Marcus felt the weight of their hope. These species were not looking for a new master. They were looking for proof that freedom was possible. I need to be honest with you, Marcus said. Earth cannot liberate the galaxy. We do not have the numbers. We do not have the reach. And we do not have the moral authority to impose a new order. We barely managed to free ourselves. The hope in the room dimmed. Several representatives looked down, disappointed. But, Marcus continued, what if we helped you free yourselves? Every eye in the room focused on him. What if we shared some of our technology? Not weapons. I will not arm civil wars across the galaxy. But what if we helped you break the monopolies? Better faster than light drive so you are not dependent on Council shipping cartels. Energy systems so you control your own power. Agricultural technology so you can feed your people without importing food at inflated prices. The insectoid diplomat clicked excitedly. You would give us technology? No one gives away technological advantage. We would trade it, Marcus corrected. At fair rates. and we would teach you how it works so you can maintain and improve it yourselves. No dependencies, no control, just honest exchange between equals. Kess leaned forward. Why would you do this? What does Earth gain? Marcus's answer was simple and honest. A galaxy where you are strong enough to stand on your own is a galaxy where Earth can actually be left alone. We do not want subjects. We do not want client states. We want neighbors who do not need us to protect them. We want a galaxy where power is distributed enough that no one can dominate everyone else. The room erupted in excited conversation. Representatives spoke urgently to each other in dozens of languages. For species that had been powerless for centuries, the possibility of genuine independence was almost too much to believe, but word of these meetings leaked. In a station housing thousands of species and millions of individuals, secrets rarely stayed secret for long. Within hours, the Council's intelligence networks had picked up reports of humans offering technology to minor species. The three dominant powers reconvened in their secure chamber. Voth was no longer pulsing with light. Its crystalline form had gone dark with anger. The humans are building a coalition. They are turning our own members against us. How many species has he met with? Kira demanded. At least 43 that we know of, Voth replied. And the number is growing. Every minor species that has felt exploited by the Council is reaching out to them. Thax stood abruptly. We must end this now, before they completely undermine our authority. I agree, Voth said, but we must do it legally. If we simply attack, we prove the humans' point that we are tyrants. We must use the law to destroy them. The High Chancellor accessed the Council's oldest legal codes, searching for something that could be used as a weapon. And there, buried in ancient restrictions written millennia ago, was the perfect tool. When the Council reconvened, the chamber was packed beyond capacity. Every species wanted to see what would happen next. Ambassador Marcus stood once again on his platform in the center of the room. High Chancellor Voth did not waste time. Ambassador Webb, you stand accused of violating the Concordat of Species Rights. Article 7 clearly states that sharing military-grade technology with non-approved civilizations is a crime punishable by total quarantine and, if resisted, extermination. The chamber went silent. This was the Council's ultimate weapon, the law that allowed them to destroy any species that threatened the established order. Your faster-than-light drives, your energy systems, your shield technology, all of these can be used for military purposes, Voth continued. By offering them to minor species without Council approval, you have violated the Concordat. The Council must now vote on whether to invoke Article 7 against humanity. Marcus remained calm, but inside he knew this was the real fight. Military power meant nothing if the entire galaxy united against Earth on legal grounds. This vote will determine humanity's fate, Voth announced, and it will show every species here whether they stand with the Council's law or with chaos and rebellion. The vote was called. Each species transmitted its decision electronically. The massive view screens showed the tally updating in real time for the Council. Against the Council, 4, against. The numbers were close, terrifyingly close. Centuries of fear and conditioning made many species vote with the powers they knew, even if they hated them. But the hope that humanity offered pulled others toward rebellion. The count reached the final species. The vote was perfectly split. Tied. A tie meant the status quo would hold, which meant the Council would invoke Article 7. High Chancellor Voth's crystalline form began to glow with triumph. The vote is tied. According to Council law, a tied vote favors the existing order. Humanity will be... The vote is not complete, a quiet voice interrupted. Every being in the chamber turned. In the far corner of the observation deck, an ancient alien was standing. Ambassador Velis of the Markesh, a species so old that most had forgotten they still had a council seat. Voth's glow dimmed. Ambassador Velis, you have abstained from every vote for 3 centuries. Why would you participate now? Velis began walking slowly toward the chamber floor. The ancient alien moved with difficulty, but with absolute determination. Because for 3 centuries there has been nothing worth voting for. Today there is. The chamber held its breath as Velis reached the speaking platform. The entire galaxy waited to hear what the ancient ambassador would say. Ambassador Veles stood on the speaking platform, looking fragile and ancient. The being's skin was pale and thin, and its body moved slowly, as if every motion caused pain. But when Veles spoke, the voice was clear and strong. The Markesh were the first species the Council conquered. Veles began. 9,000 cycles ago, when this grand alliance was just forming, the Vexar and Corvin and Talvek came to our world. We were peaceful. We had advanced art, music, and philosophy, but we were weak in weapons. They gave us a choice. Join voluntarily or be absorbed by force, High Chancellor Voth tried to interrupt. Ancient history, Veles. This is not relevant to... Silence. The word cut through the air like a blade. The chamber froze. Never in recorded history had anyone ordered a High Chancellor to be silent. Never had a High Chancellor obeyed, Veles continued. We joined. We believed in the promise. Collective peace, mutual prosperity, cooperation among the stars. For 9,000 cycles, we have watched that promise break again and again. We have seen civilizations like ours, peaceful and creative and hopeful, ground down into resource providers, into cheap labor, into nothing. The ancient ambassador turned slowly to look at the thousands of aliens filling the observation decks. We abstained from every vote because we learned long ago that our voice did not matter. The outcomes were always predetermined. The powerful made decisions, and the rest of us simply endured them. Now Veles looked directly at Ambassador Marcus Webb. But you did not ask us to fight for you, human. You did not demand our resources. You did not require our loyalty. You offered us something the Council never has. Choice, real choice, the choice to be free. Veles raised one thin arm toward the voting display. The Markesh, stand with Earth. The vote changed. The tie broke. Humanity would not be destroyed, but more than that, something else broke. Something that had held the galaxy together for millennia. Fear. The chamber erupted. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their voices. Representatives rushed to change their votes, no longer afraid of punishment. The cascade began. 20 species changed their position, then 50, then over 100. The vote that had been tied became a landslide. 2/3 of the Council now stood with Earth against invoking Article 7. General Thax stood from his observation seat, his scaled face dark with rage. This is rebellion. This is treason against the Council's authority. No, Ambassador Marcus said quietly, but his voice carried through the chamber. This is democracy. Real democracy. Not the controlled system you have been running for 2,000 years. Thax was not finished. He activated his communication device. All Corvin fleet units, this is General Thax. Surround the Council station. Declare martial law. No ship enters or leaves until order is restored. Outside the station, the Corvin fleet began to move. 250 warships, the force that had kept the Council's peace for centuries, formed a blockade around the station. Weapons powered up, targeting systems locked on. For a moment, it seemed the galaxy might descend into immediate war. But Commander Reeves was faster. The human fleet executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. In perfect synchronization, all 1,000 ships made micro-jumps through faster-than-light space, jumping in and out in fractions of a second. When they reappeared, they were positioned between the Corvin fleet and the Council station, not attacking, not threatening, just positioned. A wall between the Corvin aggression and the civilians on the station. Marcus's voice broadcast across all channels. General Thax, you are making a choice right now. You can fire and start a war that will kill billions, or you can stand down and start negotiating a future where the Corvin still have a place, just not the only place. The tension was unbearable. Every being in the galaxy watched and waited. The Corvin fleet had their weapons ready. The human fleet sat perfectly still, shields up but not firing. 10 seconds passed. Each one felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, the Corvin flagship powered down its weapons. One by one, the rest of the Corvan fleet followed. The blockade remained, but the immediate threat of violence ended. General Thax appeared on the communication screens, his face a mixture of rage and defeat. "This is not over, human." "No," Marcus agreed. "It is not over. But it is different now. And different gives us a chance to build something better." The crisis broke. Not into peace, but into possibility. 3 months later, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council still existed, but it had been fundamentally restructured. The tiered membership system was abolished. Every species, regardless of age or size, now had equal voting rights. The old monopolies on technology and trade were being dismantled. Laws that had been used to control rather than protect were being rewritten. It was messy. It was chaotic. There were arguments and conflicts and species that refused to accept the changes. But it was happening. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt council station, looking out at the flow of ships coming and going. Beside him stood Ambassador Velis, who had become an unexpected ally and friend. "Do you think it will last?" Velis asked. "This new order?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I do not know. We have broken the old system, but building something better takes time. It takes effort. It takes species learning to trust each other after centuries of exploitation." "But it is possible now," Velis said softly. "That is more than we had before." "That is why we came," Marcus agreed. "Not to conquer, not even to join, just to make sure possibility exists." Earth itself had not joined the Council. After much negotiation, humanity had been granted a status called independent partner. Earth remained free from Council jurisdiction, able to make its own decisions and control its own destiny. But humanity had committed to mutual defense agreements and open trade with any species that wanted to engage fairly. The human fleet had mostly returned home, reduced to defensive positions now that the immediate crisis had passed. But the outer colonies remained and humanity's exploration continued. Now it was done openly, with new partners from across the galaxy. Down on Earth, Director Amara Cole stood before the UN General Assembly in New York. She was much older now, her hair gray and her face lined with years of stress and work. But her eyes were bright as she delivered her report. "The Exodus program has completed its primary mission," she announced. "We asked ourselves how to survive outside the Council's system. We found the answer. Build something better and invite others to join us, not as subjects but as equals." She looked out at the representatives from every nation on Earth. But survival was just the first question. Now we must ask the next one. What kind of neighbor do we want to be? What kind of galaxy do we want to help build? Those questions do not have easy answers, but they are worth asking. The assembly erupted in discussion, but it was hopeful discussion. Earth had taken a massive risk by revealing itself to the galaxy, but that risk had paid off. Humanity was no longer alone and hiding. They were part of something larger. In deep space, Commander Reeves sat in the captain's chair of the Retribution. Her ship was now leading a joint task force with vessels from Earth, the Marquesh, Kess's people, and a dozen other species. They were investigating reports of an ancient threat in the galactic rim, something the old council had ignored because it did not affect the core worlds. A young officer, fresh from the academy, approached her. "Commander, do you think we did the right thing, coming out of isolation like we did?" Reeves looked around the bridge. Humans worked side by side with aliens. Former strangers had become teammates. Species that had been enemies under the old system were now cooperating on shared missions. "We will find out," Reeves said with a slight smile. "But I would rather face the galaxy's challenges with friends we chose than in isolation we feared to leave." She turned back to face the view screen showing the stars ahead. "Navigation. Plot our course," Science, I want full sensor sweeps of the target region. Communications, make sure all ships in the task force are synchronized. The bridge crew responded, with crisp efficiency, human and alien voices blending together. All stations report ready, Commander, the executive officer announced. Good, Reeves said. Then let us see what is out there. Engage faster-than-light drives. The Retribution jumped to FTL, leading the task force into unknown space, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as explorers in a galaxy finally learning what genuine cooperation might achieve. Behind them, the Council station continued its transformation. Species that had been powerless were learning to use their new voices. Powers that had dominated for millennia were learning to negotiate as equals. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was better. And that, Ambassador Marcus Webb thought as he watched the ships travel to and from the station, was exactly what humanity had been trying to achieve. Not perfection. Not utopia. Just the possibility of something better than what came before. Earth had skipped every galactic meeting for 200 years. Then it had shown up with 1,000 warships. But the real power had not been in those ships. The real power had been in the question humanity asked. Not, how do we conquer, but how do we survive while staying true to who we are? The galaxy was still learning that there were different kinds of strength, and humanity was still learning what it meant to be part of something larger than itself. But together they would figure it out, one day at a time, one decision at a time, one step at a time into an uncertain but hopeful future.